Crossing our fingers. Sorry, sorry, quiet, y'all. Sit down. You're speaking. We're coming around. Oh, look at that. Welcome, everyone. August 29th, 2023. It's council meeting at Pendergrass. Here comes the rain. You can't hear it? All right. Try not to. It's stored for how about that? Second? This is all new, guys. The microphones and the video recordings is all new. Bear with us if we mess any of this stuff up. First thing first, let's do our pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag. Indivisible, justice for all. Nathan, can you start?
Heavenly Father, we ask for your wisdom and guidance over our meeting tonight. We ask that you help each of us be the best neighbor and servant to our community we can be. We pray for your continued blessings and favor over our city, our state, and this great nation. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen. Council, just to let you know, these mics aren't live unless you have the glowing red light. So if you're talking, please turn it on. First thing first is we are going to review the minutes. Has everyone reviewed the minutes from our last council meeting?
Yes.
Do we have a motion to accept those minutes?
Yes.
We have a motion. And do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second. And we also are going to review the minutes from our work session meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from the work session?
Motion.
Got a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the treasury report?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Do I have a motion to accept the treasury report?
Motion.
Motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Renee, you want to talk about the library report?
Yes, for the month of August, we've had 22 patrons and 2 computer users, and we've checked out 13 books.
Thanks, Renee. Environmental service report, Rob.
The street department's out working through the evening, like for the house police guy. We are, this is an early flood. We got our movies in the park this week, this Friday,
That's Saturday.
this Saturday. So we're going to see them working a bit more downtown. We see if they are with their orange or blue or orange or green shirts, but they'll be working the downtown area to get ready for that. It's extra street lights and some just lots of grillings and killing. So we'll get excited about that. So hopefully it'll dry out.
So we got a hurricane. So I think this is about the time that everybody actually came and why they came. We have a great presentation from Mr. Mark Clooney. He presented with the county at a wonderful meeting on the 14th, and he presented a ton of information talking about the statistical analysis of the county, the municipalities within. He also encouraged anybody to come up to him afterwards and say, hey, if you want me to come to your place, give me a shout. And I did, and thank goodness he's here. I'm super interested in all the information He has a heck of a pedigree to go by, and happy he's here to help explain Pendergrass with us. Mark, please.
Wonderful. I might use this. Is that going to work okay?
Whatever you,
Versus being up on the podium?
whatever you.
They're very powerful people up there.
That's right. Try to turn it around.
You know, I don't want to disturb too much. All right, yeah. All right, perfect. That works. Well, good evening. It's fun to be up here. It's great to see all of you around. There's a report that's been printed out, and it's available for whomever wants to get a copy of it. The presentations that I have done have been on Jackson County, countywide, and when we got together, it was on the 14th?
It was.
Yeah, back on the 14th of August.
August.
Of
A few
August.
weeks
We were able to go in and we were looking at the county on a zip code basis. It's interesting, the data that we are looking at is data that is streamed by the U.S. Department, our Census Bureau department. So the Census Bureau, a lot of people think only monitors population every 10 years. And they do that because that's a constitutional requirement. And we use that to decide how the government is organized up in Washington, how Congress is set up, and the states respectively. However, the census uses a stream of information. As much as you may not know it, these little devices are collecting information about you all the time. And so the Census Bureau, the U.S. government has great access to information about what's going on with population. And so what we're going to be looking at today is a second quarter set of data on your wonderful city of Pendergrass. And one of the grounding slides that I'd like to begin the presentations with is going in and looking at where we are in terms of generational groups. A lot of times when I review this, people are very surprised at just which generation they're a part of. There's a lot of assumptions that go into the mix. I am a baby boomer. I'm 64 years of age, born in 1959. So I stand proud of being a baby boomer. There's a lot of millennials who don't like to admit that they're millennials. It's kind of their coming out experience, which is good for millennials to do that. But in that mix, one of the things that stands out is that with the millennials, not only are they the largest generational group in the United States, they are the largest generational group here in the state of Georgia, and they also happen to be the largest generational group in your city. So that is a very, very interesting way of looking at the community at large. And millennials are not just now coming out of college. In fact, the leading edge this year is turning 44. Next year will be turning 45 years of age. And they're already at a point where they're beginning to question what career is their mission, if they need to change jobs. And God only knows, they're soon to have kids that are going to be going into adolescence. So it will be an interesting mix for them. What I'm going to take you through, if this will work. Does it want to work?
Do I need to hit a button? I can hit a button.
No, now it's going slowly. There it goes. So the first chart that I want to put up there, I want to highlight in this set of about a dozen charts. You're going to see, this is perspective of population, you're going to see different dynamics of demographics like age and income and education. The first column that is after the information about what you're looking at, that first column is the statistics for Jackson County, countywide. The next column to the right of it is the statistics for your city. Those are the updated second quarter statistics for the city of Pendergrass. You also have the zip code that you're part of. The zip code is larger than your city. The zip code envelops a little bit more than just the city itself, but the zip code is important too, to look at it and see it from a reference standpoint. So it's up there. And then the last column gives you a feel for a 9-county area of Georgia. Athens, Clark County, which is where I have my farmhouse. Athens, Clark County is in that mix. The UGA students kind of skew it a little bit in terms of a younger age group, but that will give you some comparison for the region in the area. One of the things that is very important is that we're looking at what is your population as of second quarter of this year, and what was the growth that took place during the pandemic from 2020 to 2023. What type of growth took place? And to put that in relevancy, the region during that time period grew 3.5%. Your wonderful city that we're sitting in right now grew 9.1%. Your city grew 3 times the pace of what the region grew. Now, Jackson County also grew significantly. Now, what is even more intriguing is that in the state of Georgia, looking at the pace of growth during that time period and the projected pace of growth over the next 5 years, in many areas in the state of Georgia, the projected growth is slower than what just recently took place. You can see on here, when we look at the 5-year projected growth, all of those numbers are growing faster. And they're double digit. So your county is projected to grow at about 9.5% over the next 5 years. Your wonderful city is growing over 11% projected growth. That is massive growth. I can't even highlight that strongly enough. In all the places in the state that I work with, that's one of the fastest growing communities. When you go down and you look at households, household growth is projected also very high. When population grows faster than households, it's a reflection that your population is likely projected to grow because of families with kids moving in. Like, you take a typical family that might have 2 kids, they're counted once as a household, they're counted 4 times from a population standpoint. So the kids are going to make that growth happen faster. So kids are really critical and important to you. In fact, kids become even more important when we look at the age dynamics that are up there right now. When we look at the younger age groups, and God love the young age groups that are out there, most of the kids that are aged 0 to 9 years old, their parents are millennials, not Gen Xers. When you get into kids 10 to 14 years old and up, most of those are Gen Xers. Now, there's a lot more millennials out there than there are Gen Xers, and as you can well imagine, once they start making babies, there's a lot more of those millennial babies that are coming up. So when we look at those statistics, what I circled in red are statistics for your city, and those statistics of the younger age kids are higher than the comparative statistics for the county, and definitely for the region. So the value of kids are playing a very critical element in your community. When we go down and we look at some of the older age groups, you can see that when we get into seniors, the age 65 plus, which is the bottom row, the age 65 plus in Jackson County is a little bit higher than what it is in the region. You have a lot of retirees. My having lived in Virginia Highlands and Atlanta, I have a lot of my comrades that are in their 60s that are selling in the city and moving out this way because the taxes are a heck of a lot less over here. It is also a very beautiful area. You have beautiful land to drive through and come up here from Athens. It's beautiful. When we go and we look at ethnicity, ethnicity gets interesting because when you look at the percent of white folks, and you look at what that is in Jackson County, in your zip code, and in your city in Pendergrass, your city is more diverse. Your city has more diversity in it. That diversity is absolutely wonderful. Now, Gwinnett County, which is soon going to be 1 million people, in Gwinnett County. All right? The city of Atlanta, just for the first time, posted a population in that second quarter over 500,000. So that puts a perspective on how big Gwinnett County is. But Gwinnett County, white folks in Gwinnett County represent 80% of the population. And the average household income in Gwinnett County is pushing $118,000 a year. So it is one of the higher upscale counties in the state. It's also one of the most diverse. And that diversity is starting to move into your county. The Hispanic Latino population is very significant. And given what's happening in the county with industry and distribution centers and so on, that is a labor base that is a very critical and very important labor base. We don't have it here, but the average income, and this was in some of the other presentations that we did, the average income of Hispanics in the state of Georgia is almost identical to the average household income of white folks. So the diversity is very interesting what's impacting here. When we go in and look at, I don't want to get to income yet. When we go in, not even education. Don't you just love technology? There we go. Household composition. God love it if you've got friends that are single living in this wonderful city of yours, because there's not very much for them in terms of potential. Because you have a very low percentage of single people in your city. They really represent 14% of your population. Versus if we look at the county, it's 1 out of every 4. If we look at the region, it's 1 out of every 3. But here it's only 14%. You are a very, very married city. Okay? You got a lot of folks that are married together. If you go all the way down to the last row, you can see what the divorce percentage is. That happens to be in your city is 11.3%. God love it. In your zip code, the zip code goes 12.9%. So Lord only knows what goes on in the zip code. But you've got a very established base. You can see the percentage of households with kids. It's 4 out of every 10 households have kids less than 18 years of age in those households. So that is a significant base for you. When we look at education, education is significant. I want you all to applaud your elected leadership. I want you to applaud anybody out of the educational program here in your wonderful city, because you can see that the percent that has less than a high school education in your city is just under 13%. That is lower than the region. It's significantly lower than what we find in the county and what we find in your zip code. You all are doing an absolutely super job. I will say in part, I wouldn't be surprised if that's not one of your drawing cards to bringing population base with kids into the city. So that is a very, very key important part. I will go down and say that when you go into trade degrees, the associate degree, you're lower than what is the comparable. You're at 5.6%. I will say that that is a wonderful growth opportunity for you all. Trade education right now is hot, and trade jobs are hotter yet. And given what's happening in your area with development, it's high demand. And so you do have wonderful opportunity. I met with our wonderful head of Lanier Tech about 2 weeks ago, and I will simply say that the effort to bring those that have some college back in to get a trade degree is a big effort that they're pushing. If you see in here, your percentage that have some college but didn't graduate is at 19%, basically 1 out of every 5 adults. And the opportunities knocking for those folks to find affordable measures to get a 2-year degree that pays extremely well. Speaking of pay, here is where you are with your second quarter average household income. Your average household income in the city right now is just under $86,000 a year. That in and of itself is significant. Not only is it one where your income is posting above proportionate average, certainly for the state, the region, and you have to keep in mind Gwinnett County is playing a role in that region. But in the region, you've got some key areas like Tony County, in your county, Brazelton and Tony County average household incomes start pushing $140,000. So it's a significantly higher level. However, if you go down to the percentage living below poverty, do you see that your percentage, when you compare it to the zip code and to the region, your percentage is lower. You're hovering close to what it is for the county, which is lower than what it is in the region. So that's a good point. When we go in and we look at occupation, what are people doing for jobs? This is very important. This is a really cool slide. I can't out of doing this one. Construction, office administration, and transportation, those together represent over 40% of your population is employed in those areas. Again, construction, office administration, and transportation. Trust me, trade degrees will feel that even more. Having that as a basic talent will feel it. The other component, though, that I found very intriguing is the very, very top line is what we call the creative jobs. People working in architecture, design, media, even sports. You're posting a higher percentage in the city than in the county. Basically, it's 1 out of every 20 folks are employed in that area, and that's a really wonderful resource to think about developing. We talked about the library and the readership in the library and so on. Creative folks love libraries. They love to find ways to bring art alive in your community. You've got a rich resource for that. When we go over to housing, on the housing level, basically, 1 out of every 5 individuals is leasing a home. When you go down to, are there apartment complexes in your city? Well, looking out this window, I don't see any. And there actually are none. So the rental market is renting likely homes. Actually, single-family homes. It's significant. The statistic, though, and it should be highlighted, that jumps off the page is the row that says the percent of housing that was built since 2014. Jackson County leads the state in many ways at 15.6%. So 1 out of every 6 homes in Jackson County was built since 2014, 9 years ago. In your city, it goes up to 18.2%. 18.2%. That is where basically 1 out of every 5 individuals moved in to your city during that time period. So a lot of your conventional tradition and things that you've done over the years and so on, you've got a large part of your population base that's new. So the value of introducing your city back to them all over again is not a bad thing to think about. The other thing that I think is very important in your city is that when you go down into the value of the homes, you've got 2 levels of value. You've got those between 200 and 300K, 1 out of every 4 homes, and then you've got those that are between 400 to $500,000K, which is basically 1 out of every 6 homes. What is challenging community after community after community that I work with is how do you build affordable housing? And a lot of times when I say affordable housing, God love the press, God love what ends up getting communicated at large, they think that that's low-income housing. No, affordable housing right now is in that range 200 to 300K. The fact that you've got that as a base is a very attractive calling card. I do believe that is in many ways a stimulus as to how you got that population growth in the new housing. That in and of itself is a true asset that you have and is something to think about as you're moving forward. That's key. In terms of mobile housing, a lot of people think that small towns out in the country have tons of mobile housing. God love your zip code. It's 1 out of every 6 homes in the zip code, but in your city, it's only 6%. So the demographics in the population is a very, very interesting way to look at what is the makeup of your community and your city. I'm going to take 5 more quick minutes and take you down one more route and put on a different pair of glasses. We did not do this when we met and we had the event about 2-3 weeks ago. There is a way of looking at the population on a much more holistic level in which we look at it. It's hard to read for all of you all sitting up there, but it looks at the population on a more comprehensive level. Just because somebody's below the age of 40 doesn't necessarily mean they match everybody else in there. So in that younger age group, there's nicknamed neighborhood groups called millennial eye climbers, exerted millennial grads, upstarts. There's even one called young and rustic. When we get into families, we have very interesting family groups. We've got millennial achievers, which are high-income young folks that are starting to have kids, all the way down to camo and car seats. And you're going to see that you have those in here where we're sitting right now. We get into the older age group. We get money empty nests and great power, and we get down to town square elders. But when we go to look at your community, your city specifically, it gets intriguing. Younger groups are on the left, family groups are in the middle, older groups are on the right. Do you see that highest red bar, the red is your city? Let me make sure I'm saying that right. Yes, the red is your city. The gray is Jackson County. So you see that red bar in the middle, it goes, what? That is more than a third of the population, and that group is called camo and car seats. Okay? They love the country, they value the country, they have strong family values as well, and their kids are critically important to them. That is a third of your population. So when we saw the households with kids, when we saw some of those other statistics of the younger kids, that right there jumps off the screen. The Gen Xers are the group that's over here, that red bar that's to the left that also has a red star in it. Those Gen Xers, those Gen X families, are also very interesting because those kids are soon out of the house. They're mostly in high school and college. And in the next 5 to 8 years, that population base is going to be encountering things like, gee, we have more houses than we need. Gee, maybe I need to have some medical service. Gee, maybe I need to work out. Gee, maybe I need some help in the yard. So you're on the cusp of some big changes taking place as that population group ages. Now, going over here on this side, the younger groups, you got a couple of those bars that are significant there, and you've got some bars over here with the older age groups too. What is interesting in this mix is that when we compare, and just bear with me, when we compare in that next chart, your city, which is in blue, and the zip code, which is in green, do you see how much stronger the family market represents? You see those 2 blue bars higher than the green bars among those top family groups. The zip code has the highest income family group that's not in your city. That group that's over here called Academy Wealth. That's got the green star on it. Those are probably some subdivisions that we drive through coming here. Okay? But that family group is very critical and important. And we're not going to go into this great depth tonight, but it's a resource that you have. You've got information now that I'm providing to you all of each one of those groups, a short little description of them, and the brands that they buy more so than the public at large. God loves the camo and car seats. They love Dairy Queen. They love Walmart. They're into their what is it? Honeydew, the soft drink? Mountain Dew, thank you very much. I don't drink it.
You know.
But CNC, country music, they love all that stuff. You get over here with the hometown patriarchs, they're big time into ESPN, Southern Living, and they do like Starbucks. And I stopped at the Kroger on the way up here, and I can attest to the fact that there was a group of that age group, hometown patriots, sitting in that Starbucks over there at Kroger. And mostly males. They probably didn't want to shop the aisles with their wives that are over there. These are also another set, and this is quick snapshot again on those. Those are other groups that you have in your county, and it helps you understand and how to embrace them further. It certainly is something from a leadership level that should help you all in guiding judgment on future planning. The last slide that I have right here is a very important slide, and again, I feel for you all out there, it's hard to read it, although the colors are very important on that page. On that chart, the first column lists out a set of retail categories. Okay? Everything from car dealers to home electronics, jewelry stores, bookstores, pet supply stores, down to restaurants. The column after that is a column of what your residents spent in the 12 months ending in May of this calendar year in 2023. So at car dealerships, they spent just over $16 million. You have no car dealerships, so no one locally netted any of it. Okay? If we go down to a category like auto parts and tires, your residents spent $1.2 million. They could have spent it anywhere. Could have been in Jefferson, Athens, Atlanta, Gainesville. But that's how much they spent, $1.2 million. You've got somebody in your city that does things with auto parts and tires, and they came in at just over $250,000 in revenue. So when you go in here and you look at where you're not capitalizing on the spending of your residents, it's shaded it in blue. So you can see you're a very blue city, and we're not talking about Democrats. So that is a very telling area in terms of what you all are not capitalizing on. The areas that you are, you have got revenue coming in. Oh, I'm sorry. This is your zip code. You're looking at your zip code, not just the city. In the zip code, you're netting in grocery stores, gas stations, and clothing stores, and fast food restaurants are about at average. But all those other categories represent an opportunity for you. So that is what information can help you do. I think it's one where, what are the insights? What are the top insights that you all see coming out of it? Definitely think about that. What is it saying that is driving the framework of what your city is now and what your city can become in the next 3, 4, 5 years? Because it's very telling when you see this. So that being the case, that's the presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. You should be saturated and you're not sipping coffee or Coca-Cola, so that's a good thing.
Mark, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Good. Yes, you can.
Right, guys. Thank you so much. I know a lot of you came specifically for that. We're going to go on to, we have an agreement that we're doing with the Georgia DOT. This is for street lighting and with Georgia Power. Our city attorney is going to read this agreement, and it's something that I will sign at the end of it. But it's just something that needs to be done.
This is a memorandum of agreement for pedestrian roadway lighting, State Route 332, Glen G. Road, and Glen Abbey Lane, City of Pendergrass, Jackson County, consisting of installed 18-inch, 16-foot breakaway poles with 100-watt LED post tops for pedestrian roadway lighting by permit number 1295496 along State Route 332, Glen Abbey Lane, and Glen G. Road, City of Pendergrass, Georgia, Jackson County. This agreement is between the City of Pendergrass and combined through the City Council, hereinafter called City, and the Department of Transportation and Agency of the State of Georgia, hereinafter called the Department. Relative to the City is requesting to 18-each 16-foot breakaway poles with 100-watt LED post-top luminaries for pedestrian roadway lighting by permit number 1295496 along State Route 332, Glen Abbey Lane, and Glen G. Road, City of Pendergrass, Georgia, Jackson County. It is the intention of the parties of this city, only to the extent that may be bound by contract that may hereinafter be entered into, shall be responsible for the following. The city shall install, locate, provide the energy, operate, maintain, design additional pedestrian roadway lighting in accordance with the Georgia Department of Transportation's Design Policy Manual by permit number 1295496, 18-each 16-foot breakaway poles with 100-watt LED post-top luminaries for pedestrian roadway lighting along State Route 332, Glen Abbey Lane, and Glen G. Road, Pendergrass, Georgia, Jackson County. The city, in its operation and maintenance of the lighting system, shall not in any way alter the type or location of any of the various components that make up the entire lighting system without prior written approval from the department. The city shall at all times indemnify and save harmless from the department and the state of Georgia to the extent allowed by law from any and all responsibility for damages or liability or both which may result from the installation, construction, reconstruction, operation, maintenance, or repair, or any combination of any of the foregoing. The city assumes full responsibility for the requirements of the Georgia Utility Facility Protection Act. It is further agreed that the department, only to the extent that it may be bound by contracts which hereafter may be entered into, shall reserve the right to remove the aforementioned lighting upgrade in the event that the city elects to de-energize or fail to properly maintain any individual component within the systems or the complete system, including poles, masts, arms, luminaries, foundations, and associated wiring. In addition, the department reserves the right at its sole discretion to remove or replace any lighting upgrades for public safety if at any time compromised by the actions or inactions of the city. It is further agreed that this agreement shall remain in effect for a period of 50 years. It is further agreed that the covenants herein contained shall, except as otherwise provided, accrue to the benefit of and be binding upon the successors in the crimes of the parties hereto. This document is a memorandum of agreement expressing the present intention of the parties. Nothing contained herein shall require the undertaking of any act, project, study, analysis, or any other activity by any party until the contract for such activity is executed, nor shall this document require the expenditure of any funds by any party until the contract for such expenditure is executed. However, nothing contained herein shall be construed to prohibit any parties undertaking any act, project, study, analysis, or any other activity which the party is required by law to contract to undertake as a part of any other program which fulfills some function shown herein as intended to be performed by the party undertaking such act, project, study, analysis, or any other activity. In witness whereof the parties have hereto executed a memorandum of agreement to be executed by the duly authorized officials in the respective fields attached hereto. And we will sign.
Get that signed. There was a couple typos in here, so we want to adjust the typos before it's signed. We're going to go on to old business. We have quite a few ordinances, the budget and military debt. First up is going to be the garage sale proposed ordinance. Yes, please.
An ordinance by the mayor and city council of the city of Pendergrass, Georgia, to establish an ordinance pertaining to regulating garage and yard sales, to require a permit, to require cleanup after the sale, to limit the sale duration, to limit the number of sales, to establish advertising requirements, to state responsibility for clear movement of traffic, and to promote public health, safety, and welfare, and for other purposes. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the mayor and the city council of the city of Pendergrass, and is hereby ordained by the authority of the same that Section 1, Pendergrass City Code of Ordinances be added to by the adoption of this ordinance to be titled Garage and Yard Sales. Section 2, this ordinance shall be known as the city of Pendergrass Garage and Yard Sales Ordinance. Section 3, purpose and intent. This chapter is enacted to protect, preserve, and promote the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Pendergrass, Georgia, through the regulation and control of garage and yard sales. It is the intent of this chapter to establish objective standards that will reduce excessive and repeated yard sales at the same location and mandate that each yard sale be permitted by the city, and to require that all yard sales be time limited and that all yard sale signs are removed after completion of the yard sale. The intent of this ordinance is to improve the enjoyment of life and property and in the conduct of business throughout the city. This chapter has been narrowly tailored as content-neutral time, place, and manner regulations to serve a significant governmental interest while leaving open ample opportunity for residents to conduct legitimate yard sales. Section 4, enforcement. Whenever the police department or code enforcement official determines that a violation of any of the provisions of this article has occurred, the police department or code enforcement department may cause the issuance of a citation for infraction of this article. Section 5, general penalty. In this section, the term violation of this code means doing an act that is prohibited, made, or declared unlawful, an offense or misdemeanor by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized by ordinance. Failure to perform an act that is required to be performed by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized by ordinance, or failure to perform an act if the failure is declared a misdemeanor or offense or unlawful by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized. In this section, the term violation of this code does not include the failure of a city officer or city employee to perform an official duty unless it is provided that the failure to perform the duty is to be punished as provided in this section, or it is clear from the context that it is the intent to impose the penalty provided for in the section of punishing the officer or employee. The exception otherwise provided, a person convicted of a violation of this code section shall be punished by a fine not exceeding $1,000, imprisonment for a term of not exceeding 6 months, or compulsory labor for the city on the streets, sidewalks, squares, or other public places for a period not exceeding 30 days, or any combination thereof. With respect to violations of this code section that are continuous with respect to time. Each day the violation continues as a separate offense, and with respect to violations of this code section that are not continuous with respect to time, each day the violation continues as a separate offense. The imposition of a penalty does not prevent revocation or suspension of a license, permit, or franchise, or any other administrative sanction. Violations of this code that are continuous with respect to time are a public nuisance and may be abated by injunctive or other equitable relief and by other such means that are provided by law. The imposition of a penalty does not prevent equitable relief. State law reference, limitations on penalties, OCGA 36-35-6A2, authority to punish ordinance violations by requiring labor, OCGA section 3638. Section 6. All ordinances or parts of ordinances which conflict with provisions of this ordinance are, to the extent of such conflict, except as otherwise provided, hereby repealed. Section 7. Should any provision of this ordinance be declared invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction, such decision shall not affect the validity of this ordinance as a whole or any provision thereof other than the provision specifically declared to be invalid. The City Council declares that it will pass this ordinance into each subsection, sentence, clause, and phrase thereof, irrespective of the fact any one or more subsections, sentences, clauses, or phases may be declared invalid. The ordinance shall be in full force and effect for its adoption of the City Council.
That's our second read, and it is now being called to vote. And do roll call vote. Starting at my left, let's see, Crystal, there.
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Tara,
No.
Gabe? Yes. I have 3 yeas, 1 nay. That ordinance is approved. We have our second read and vote on taxi parlors and proposed ordinance.
This is ordinance number 080176, State of Georgia, County of Jackson, City of Pendergrass, Georgia Administration. An ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Pendergrass, Georgia, to establish an ordinance regulating tattooing, body art, body artists, and tattoo parlors to promote the public health, safety, and welfare, and for other purposes. Now therefore be it ordained by the Mayor of the City Council of the City of Pendergrass, and it is hereby ordained by authority of the same that Section 1, the Pendergrass City Code of Ordinances shall be added to by the adoption of this ordinance to be titled Tattoo Parlors. Section 2, this ordinance shall be known as the City of Pendergrass Tattoo Parlor Ordinance. Section 3, purpose and intent. This chapter is enacted to protect, preserve, and promote the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Pendergrass, Georgia. Section 4, purpose of this ordinance is to acknowledge and define the various forms of tattooing and body art, and to establish regulations and requirements pertaining to tattooing and body art within the city limits of Pendergrass. These body art studios and body artist rules and regulations are adopted for the purpose of establishing reasonable standards for individuals performing body art procedures and facilities from which they are provided with the intent to promote the health and safety of all individuals performing and receiving art services within the city limits. Section 5, General Penalty. In this section, the term violation of this code means doing an act that is prohibited, made, or declared unlawful, an offense or misdemeanor by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized by ordinance. Failure to perform an act that is required to be performed by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized by ordinance law. Failure to perform an act if the failure is declared a misdemeanor or an offense or unlawful ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized. In this section, the term violation of this code does not include the failure of a city officer or city employee to perform an official duty unless it is provided that the failure to perform the duty is to be punished as provided in this section or is clear from the context that it is the intent to impose the penalty provided for in this section upon the officer or employee. Except as otherwise provided, a person convicted of a violation of this code shall be punished by a fine not exceeding $1,000, imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months, or compulsory labor for the city on the streets, sidewalks, squares, or other places for a period not exceeding 30 days, or any combination thereof. With respect to violations of this code that are continuous with respect to time, each day the violation continues as a separate offense, and with respect to the violations of this code that are not continuous with respect to time, each day the violation continues as a separate offense. The imposition of a penalty does not prevent revocation or suspension of a license, permit, or franchise, or any other administrative sanction. Violations of this code that are continuous with respect to time are public nuisance and may be abated by adjustment or other equitable relief, and by such other means as are provided by law. The imposition of penalty does not prevent equitable relief. State law reference is Limitations on Penalties, OCGA 36-35. 6A2, authority to punish ordinance violations by requiring labor, OCGA A 36-8-8. Section 6. All ordinances or parts of ordinances which complete the provisions of this ordinance are to the extent of such conflict and except as hereinafter provided hereby repealed. Section 7. Should any provision of this ordinance be declared invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction, such decision shall not affect the validity of this ordinance as a whole or any provision thereof, other than the provisions specifically declared to be invalid. The City Council declares that it would have passed this ordinance in each subsection, sentence, clause, and phrase thereof, irrespective of the fact that any one or more subsections, sentences, clauses, or phrases may be declared invalid. Section 8. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon its adoption by the City Council in the mayor.
We are calling a vote the second part of the proposed ordinance. Again, roll call start. Crystal?
Yes.
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 4, unanimous, and that one passes. On to our second reading, vote of the quality of life nuisance proposed ordinance.
Ordinance number 080177 in the city of Pendergrass, Georgia Municipal Corporation, State of Georgia, County of Jackson, an ordinance by the mayor and the city council of the city of Pendergrass, Georgia, to establish an ordinance pertaining to nuisances in our community quality of life and to promote public health, safety, and welfare, and for other purposes. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the mayor and the city council of the city of Pendergrass, and it is hereby ordained by authority of the same, that section 1, the Pendergrass City Code of Ordinances shall be added by the adoption of this ordinance to be titled Quality of Life. Section 2, this ordinance shall be known as the City of Pendergrass Quality of Life Ordinance. Section 3, Purpose and Intent. This chapter is enacted to protect, preserve, and promote the health, safety, and welfare of citizens of Pendergrass, Georgia. Whereas the appearance of the community weighs heavily in the decisions of prospective residents and businesses in locating to a particular area, and whereas a clean, safe, and well-kept community can stabilize or increase property values, provide a healthy environment, and make citizens proud of the area in which they live. Each city needs a set of regulations to keep its community clean, remove unsightly conditions, and prevent unhealthy and unsafe situations from occurring. It is therefore the purpose and intent of this ordinance to encourage a clean, healthy, and satisfying environment, one free from nuisances, eyesores, and unhealthy and unsafe or devaluing conditions. It is important for a community to appear clean, well-kept, and generally clear of public nuisances, eyesores, and unhealthy conditions. Section 4, Nuisance Prohibited. It shall be unlawful for any person, firm, or corporation or other entity to cause, permit, maintain, or allow the creation or maintenance of a nuisance or more specifically described in this ordinance. The city shall have the right to abate a nuisance pursuant to this chapter and pursuant to the laws of the state of Georgia and the municipal code of the city of Pendergrass, and shall have the authority and power to order such abatement as provided in this article and provided by the laws of the state. Section 5, any owner, tenant, or both subject to this chapter failing or refusing to comply with the provisions of this ordinance after written notice from the police department or appointed code enforcement officer suggesting corrective action may be punishable as prescribed in this ordinance. Section 6, the enforcement. Whenever the police department or code enforcement official determines that a violation of any of the provisions of this article has occurred, the police department or code enforcement department will cause the issuance of a citation for infraction of this article if such violation is not abated within the prescribed time period. Section 7, general penalty. In this section, the term violation of this code means doing an act that is prohibited or made or declared unlawful by an offense or misdemeanor by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized by ordinance. Failure to perform an act that is required to be performed by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized by ordinance, or failure to perform an act that the failure is declared a misdemeanor or an offense or unlawful by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized by ordinance. Section, the term violation of this code does not include the failure of a city officer or city employee to perform an official duty unless it is provided that the failure to perform the duty is to be punished as provided in this section or is clear from the context that it is the intent to impose the penalty provided for in this section of an officer or employee. Except as otherwise provided, a person convicted of a violation of this code shall be punished by a fine not exceeding $1,000, imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months, or compulsory labor for the city on the street, sidewalks, squares, or other public places for a period not exceeding 30 days, or any combination thereof. With respect to violations of this code that are continuous with respect to time, each day that the violation continues is a separate offense, and with respect to the violations of this code that are not continuous with respect to time, each day the violation continues to be separate offense. The imposition of a penalty does not prevent revocation or suspension of a license, permit, or franchise or other administrative sanctions. Violations of this code that are continuous with respect to time are a public nuisance and may be abated by injunctive or other equitable relief and by such other means as provided by law. The imposition of a penalty does not prevent equitable relief. State law references limitations on penalties, OCGA 36-45-6A2, and authority to punish ordinance violations by requiring waiver, OCGA 36-30-8. Section 8, all ordinances or parts of ordinances which conflict with the provisions of this ordinance are, to the extent of such conflict, accepted hereinafter provided, hereby repealed. Section 9, should any provision of this ordinance be declared invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction, such decision shall not affect the validity of this ordinance as a whole, or any part, provision thereof, other than the provisions specifically declared to be invalid. The City Council declares that it will pass this ordinance, these subsections in the clause and phrase thereof, irrespective of the fact that any one or more subsections in this clause or phrases may be declared invalid. Section 10, ordinance shall be enforced in effect upon the official adoption of the City Council and Mayor.
Roll call again. Crystal?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yes.
Tara?
Nay.
Gabe?
Yes.
Yes, one no. Groups? I didn't know that you were coming for a no or giving presentations. All right, our next ordinance, second read and vote for door-to-door salesman.
This is ordinance number 080117, in the City of Pendergrass, the Georgia Municipal Corporation, State of Georgia, County of Jackson, an ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Pendergrass, Georgia, to establish an ordinance regulating peddling, soliciting, canvassing, and door-to-door salesmen, and to promote the public health, safety, and welfare for other purposes. Now therefore be it ordained by the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Pendergrass, and it is hereby ordained by authority of the same that Section 1, Pendergrass City Code of Ordinances be added to by the adoption of the ordinance to be titled door-to-door salesman. Section 2, this ordinance should be known as the City of Pendergrass door-to-door salesman. Section 3, purpose and intent, this chapter is enacted to protect, preserve, and promote the health, safety, and welfare of citizens of Pendergrass, Georgia. Section 4, the city has received recent complaints about the operation of door-to-door solicitors, and the mayor and council desire to create regulations to ensure that the operation of door-to-door solicitors is conducted in a lawful and peaceful manner. Section 5, general penalty. In this section, the term violation of this code means doing an act that is prohibited, made, or declared unlawful offense or misdemeanor by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized by ordinance. Failure to perform an act that is required to be performed by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized by ordinance, or failure to perform an act, failure is declared a misdemeanor or an offense or unlawful by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized by ordinance. In this section, the term violation of this code does not include the failure of a city officer or city employee to perform an official duty unless it is provided that a failure to perform the duty is to be punished as provided in this section or is clear from the context of the intent to impose the penalty provided for in this section of an officer or employee. Except as otherwise provided, a person convicted of a violation of this code shall be punished by a fine not exceeding $1,000, imprisonment for a term of not exceeding 6 months, or compulsory labor for the city on the streets, sidewalks, squares, or other public places for a period not exceeding 30 days or any combination thereof. With respect to violations of this code that are continuous with respect to time, each day the violation continues as a separate offense, and with respect to the violations of this code that are not continuous with respect to time, each day the violation continues as a separate offense. The imposition of a penalty does not prevent revocation or suspension of a license, permit, or franchise, or other administrative sanctions. Violations of this code that are continuous with respect to time or a public nuisance may be abated by adjustment or other equitable relief and by such other means as provided by law. The imposition of a penalty does not prevent equitable relief. State law references limitations on penalties, OCGA 36-35-82, and authority to punish ordinance violations by requiring labor, OCGA 36-30-8. Section 6, all ordinances or parts of ordinances which conflict with the provisions of this ordinance are, to the extent of such conflict, except as hereinafter provided, hereby repealed. Section 7, should any provision of this ordinance be declared invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction, such decision shall not admit the validity of this ordinance as a whole or any provision thereof other than the provision specifically declared to be invalid. City Council declares that it would have passed this ordinance in each subsection, sentence, clause, and phrase thereof, irrespective of the fact that any one or more subsections, sentences, clauses, or phrases may be declared invalid. Section 8, this ordinance shall be in full force and effective with the official adoption of the City Council.
Calling the vote. Crystal, let's see.
Yes.
Yes. Nathan?
Yes.
2 yeses. Tara?
Yes.
3?
Yes.
4 yeses. It's unanimous, no no's. Door-to-door sales passes. Our last of the ordinances are noise ordinance, excessive sounds.
Ordinance number 0801-079, in the city of Pendergrass, the Georgia Municipal Corporation, State of Georgia, County of Jackson, and ordinance by the mayor and city council of the city of Pendergrass, Georgia, to establish an ordinance pertaining to noise and excessive sound control to promote the public health, safety, welfare, and for other purposes. Now therefore be it ordained by the mayor and the city council of the city of Pendergrass, and it is hereby ordained by authority of the same that the section 1, the Pendergrass City of Code of Ordinances be added to by the adoption of this ordinance to be titled Chapter 3 of Noises and Sounds. Section 2, this ordinance shall be known as the City of Pendergrass Noise Control Ordinance. Section 3, purpose and intent. This chapter is enacted to protect, preserve, and promote the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Pendergrass with the control of noise, a recognized form of environmental pollution. It is the intent of this chapter to establish objective standards of reduce excessive community noises which are harmful and otherwise detrimental to individuals and to the community in the enjoyment of life and property and in the conduct of business. It is not the intent of this chapter to regulate noise based upon a source based on objective volume limitations and objective distances from which for the purposes of this chapter intentionally vary based on the time of day and reasonable expectations of persons occupying the area during the relevant time period. It is not the intent of this chapter to regulate speech, either under the federal or Georgia Constitution. This chapter has been narrowly tailored as a content-neutral time, place, and manner regulation to serve a significant governmental interest while leaving open ample opportunity for communication. Section 4, Enforcement. Whenever the police department or code enforcement official determines that a violation of any of the provisions of this article has occurred, the police department or code enforcement department may cause the issuance of a citation or infraction of this article. Section 5, General Penalty. In this section, the term violation of this code means doing an act that is prohibited, made, or declared unlawful, an offense or misdemeanor by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized by ordinance. Failure to perform an act that is required to be performed by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized by ordinance, or failure to perform an act if the failure is declared a misdemeanor or an offense or unlawful by ordinance or by rule or regulation authorized by ordinance. In this section, the term violation of this code does not include the failure of a city officer or city employee to perform an official duty unless it is provided that the failure to perform the duty is to be punished as provided in this section, or is clear from the context that is the intent to impose the penalty provided for in this section of the officer or employee. Except as otherwise provided, a person convicted of a violation of this code shall be punished by a fine not exceeding $1,000, imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months, or compulsory labor for the city on the streets, sidewalks, squares, or other public places for a period not exceeding 30 days, or any combination thereof. With respect to violations of this code that are continuous with respect to time, each day the violation continues as a separate offense, and with respect to violations of this code that are not continuous with respect to time, each day the violation continues as a separate offense. The imposition of the penalty does not prevent revocation or suspension of a license, permit, or franchise, or other administrative sanction. Violations of code that are continuous with respect to time are a public nuisance and may be abated by injunctive or other equitable relief and by other means that are provided by law. The imposition of the penalty does not prevent equitable relief. State law reference, limitations on penalties, OCGA 3635 A2, authority to punish ordinance violations by required labor, OCGA 36-30-8. Section 6. All ordinances or parts of ordinances which conflict with the provisions of this ordinance are, to the extent of such conflict and except as otherwise provided, hereby repealed. Section 7. Should any provision of this ordinance be declared invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction, such decision shall not affect the validity of this ordinance or any provision thereof other than the provision specifically declared to be invalid. The City Council declares that it will pass this ordinance in each subsection, sentence, clause, and phrase thereof, irrespective of the fact that any one or more subsections, sentences, clauses, or phrases may be declared invalid. Section 8. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon its adoption, official adoption by the City Council and the Mayor.
And vote. Crystal Withing.
Yes.
Yes. Nathan?
Yes.
2 yes. Sarah?
No.
1 no.
Yes.
3 yeses. 1 no. Passes. Now we are on to the second read and vote on the proposed fiscal year 2024 budget. You're all set.
This is ordinance 2023-08-2923, State of Georgia, County of Jackson, City of Pendergrass, Georgia Municipal Corporation. Pursuant to the provisions of OCGA 3681-1 and all ordinance to adopt the budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2024, and ending December 31st, 2024, for each fund of the City of Pendergrass, Georgia, appropriating the amount shown in each budget as expenditures, adopting the items as anticipated funding sources, providing for the receipt of money by gift, grant, or otherwise, and other items necessary for the ongoing operations for the city of Pendergrass, Georgia. Whereas the mayor has presented a proposed fiscal year 2024 budget to the city council, and whereas sound governmental operations require budget to first plan financing the services for the residents of the city of Pendergrass, and whereas Title 36, Chapter 81, Article 1 of the official code of Georgia annotated requires a balanced budget for the city's fiscal year, which runs from January 1 to December 31st of each year. And whereas the city council has reviewed the proposed fiscal year 2024 budget as presented by the mayor, and whereas the budget lists proposed expenditures and expenses for the fiscal year 2023, and whereas this budget as presented is a balanced budget that anticipated revenues and other financial sources for each fund equal to proposed expenditures and expenses. And whereas the city council grants authority to the mayor to adjust the budget as necessary for any gifts, donations, or grants that are accepted by the city council during the fiscal year, and whereas the public hearing on the proposed budget are held in a public hearing held on August the 11th, 2023 at 11 a.m., on August 11th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m., and again on August 29th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. And whereas each of these budgets is a balanced budget so that the anticipated revenues for each fund equal or exceed the proposed expenditures and expenses. Now therefore be it, and it is hereby ordained by the mayor and the council of the city of Pendergrass under the authority thereof, this budget attached to A hereto and incorporated as part of its ordinance for the year 2024. Furthermore, this ordinance shall be and remain in full force and effect from and after its adoption. This ordinance having been properly considered and adopted by the city council of the city of Pendergrass, the same is hereby approved.
We are looking for a vote to approve the fiscal 2024 budget. Crystal? Please.
Yes.
Nathan?
Yes.
2 yeses.
Yes.
3 yeses.
Yes.
4 yeses. Budget is approved for 2024. And for our last reading is our second read and vote on the proposed fiscal year 2024 millage rate of 3 mills.
Ordinance number 2023082924, City of Pendergrass, Georgia Municipal Corporation, County of Jackson, an ordinance of the mayor and the council of the City of Pendergrass, Georgia, that has a minimum tax rate of the City of Pendergrass for fiscal year 2024 and for other purposes. Be it ordained by the mayor and the City Council of the City of Pendergrass, Georgia, pursuant to CGA 4853 and meeting duly assembled, and is hereby ordained by the authority of the same that the following annual dwelling tax be and is hereby assessed, especially to be collected on all the taxable property subject to taxation in the City of Pendergrass for the year 2024 as follows. Whereas the mayor and city council shall annually set and levy and have a lower tax to meet the ordinary and current expenses of the city of all real and personal property within the city, and whereas pursuant to CGA 4857A, all property subject to municipal and rural taxation shall be assessed at 40% of its fair market value. The basis for fair market value shall be 100% of fair market value determined for the property by the county or county as a rural tax purposes. Property is assessed at the county level by the Board of Tax Assessors. The State Revenue Commissioner is responsible for examining the digest of counties in Georgia in order to determine the property is assessed uniformly and equally between and within the county, which is CGA 4853. The tax bills received by property owners from the county will include both fair market value and the assessed value of the property. Fair market value means the amount a knowledgeable buyer would pay for the property and a willing seller would property at arm's length bona fide sale, as CGA 48-5-2. Property owners that do not agree with the assessed value of the proposed assessment can file an appeal with the county Board of Equalization, as CGA 48-5-311, and whereas tax bills showing the assessed valuation, amount of taxes due, tax due date, and information as to the delinquency dates and penalties shall be sent to all taxpayers at least 30 days prior to the due date. The failure to send tax bill shall not invalidate tax. Tax of all kinds paid to the city, including but not limited to malt beverage and wine excise taxes, shall bear interest at the rate established by law per month from the day the tax is due until the tax is paid. For purposes of this section, any period of less than 1 month shall be considered to be 1 month, and whereas the following property shall be exempt from agricultural taxation. All public property, all places of religious worship, places of burial, and all businesses used as college, university, or other seminary of learning. Resolved that the mayor and council hereby declare the foregoing preambles, and whereas provisions set forth here and above constituted should be considered to be substantive provisions of this ordinance, and are hereby incorporated by reference to this provision. Section 1, the ad valorem tax rate to the city of Pendergrass for the 2024 calendar year on property subject to ad valorem taxation by the city is hereby fixed at $3.40 of each 1,000 of property subject to ad valorem tax by the city. Section 2, debt rate of 3.0 mil on 40% of each 1,000 of tax property is hereby levied as follows. For general purposes, 3 mil on 40% of each $1,000 of taxable property. Section 3, public hearings on the proposed millage rate were held at public hearings held on August 11, 2023 at 11 a.m., on August 11, 2023 at 6:30 p.m., and again on August 29, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. All ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict shall be hereby repealed.
And we are to vote on the fiscal year 2024 millage rate. Crystal, say
Yes.
1 yes. Nathan?
Yes.
2 yeses.
Yes.
3 yeses.
Yes.
And 4 yeses. That's it for our ordinances. I just wanted to do a brief thing because I know we've been here for a long time already tonight. We do have our event on September 2nd. Rob briefly touched on that. We are playing Movie in the Park, just right behind City Hall. One of the big things that we're doing there also is our 4th of July fireworks celebration that we had to cancel due to our weather. And so we are going to be shooting off fireworks. Hopefully, we don't have a hurricane. I hope it stays dry. And then one last thing I wanted to note is we had a fantastic something happen with one of our officers. Officer to come in and his canine makeup had a fantastic connection with a dangerous criminal. It was a multi-agency task, and everyone worked together, and it was just a wonderful experience that we were able to be a part of. I just can't thank our officer, our police department, and our Chief McDaniel actually wrote a wonderful letter stating that. With that, I want to open up for public comment. If anybody has any public comment, I know that we've been here for a long time and want to give anybody the opportunity.
Sir, could I just ask a quick question? I want to know the definition of door to door.
Door to door sales.
Door-to-door salesman, I guess, something I was trying to catch. Did that mean basically that if I am a door-to-door salesman and knocking on doors, I'm breaking an ordinance? I didn't hear all that. Quick.
Yeah, to not go into the actual ordinance so much, but yeah, if you are going door to door, you would be a part of that ordinance.
So do you have signs that will let someone, and I'm asking because I have to deal with a large area. With that, let's say you had a hailstorm came through, and then all of a sudden you're a roof repair guy, you're knocking on the door to say, hey, I can get you maybe insurance paper or roof, let me check for damage. I mean, is he breaking or she breaking the law there?
So with all due respect, Representative, all that goes into the actual ordinance. This was just the legal part of the ordinance. It's not making it illegal to do door-to-door sales. You just have to pull permit.
I've been asked that about 3 times while I was storms during the last one. I thought a lot of that. So thank you very much.
Sure. And if anybody doesn't know, Emery Donahue is our state representative in our district. Raise your hand. really hard to get to know him. If he could, I don't know if he'll be able to get his phone number.
He's not friendly, he doesn't talk.
He doesn't talk much at all. Any other public comment? And